Oh my gosh, you've got questions.
Randy Jones Podcast. Ha! We gotta call it something different than that. You know what?
How come your voice changed like that?
It's my DJ voice.
I never knew. Well, good morning.
Good morning. You're at the podcast,
I'm
man.
at the podcast.
This is our most famous podcast ever.
Let me tell you what would be the most famous podcast ever if we just videoed our conversations every single day.
Oh, listen.
We'd have no friends.
Yeah.
We'd have no friends, no family, or anything. But we make the big bucks.
Boy, they'd love it, wouldn't they?
They would.
We always said we had a camera on us 24 hours a day.
Oh, my gosh.
The world would stop spinning.
You know, I think that's one of the things that, especially with tiny homes, we've done several ventures together in our life, of course. But tiny homes, you wouldn't believe everything that happens behind the scenes. You just wouldn't. And I'm sure it's like that with every company, like Carpet World.
Yeah.
I don't even know if there is a Carpet World. I'm sure there is, but there has to be, drama and problems with every business that you have. So
I don't know about that. I've got several friends that have their own business and they've been in business for years. And if I tell them one week that happens here, never in their career had they had anything like it.
Well, you know what I seen this 2 or 3 years ago, and I told Randy about it, and I said, who in the world was mad at Camping World? And they put a bad review on the Better Business Bureau to Camping World.
And they didn't care.
They
had all kinds of bad reviews.
What are you going to do?
I still went to Camping World and bought me an air mattress.
Listen, we still buy some stuff from Camping World. You have to do what you have to do. You got to move on, right?
Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh, man, there's so much we can talk about.
Well, good morning. Let's start out because I'm rambling on over here.
There's so much. Well, yeah, it's like what we're like the Robin Williams, how we just go everywhere.
Yeah,
that's what this is going to be like. This is going to be like the Robin Williams stand up.
It's going to be a mess.
Yeah, well, we got Ace in here. He's laying down on this carpet.
Listen, if we didn't have Ace in here, he'd be scratching on the door to want in. And in a few minutes, he's going to scratch on the door to want out.
Yeah.
So.
No, well, he's locked in now. So, hey, everybody, welcome to this podcast. We don't know what we're going to call it yet. I haven't officially called it the Randy Jones Podcast. It seems like everybody has a podcast. They name it after themselves. But I heard a quote. It was about I wanted to talk about things that nobody talks about.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that before I signed up for this.
And Amanda, I brought toilet paper here.
What for?
Well, I'm afraid there might be tears shed here today, so I'm going to be prepared.
Then why wouldn't you get Kleenexes?
I'm afraid I'm going to cry.
Why didn't you get Kleenexes from the girls' office?
I'm not allowed in their office.
Listen, the ladies here, they take care of everything. So
no, I come prepared.
Well, that's a guy thing right there.
Well, it's all I got.
Okay.
So, but... been wanting to do this podcast for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, even over a year or two ago, we talked about doing this.
Yeah, you talked about it for a while.
Yeah, and there's just, I talk to so many people, our friends over the years, and everybody has always said, Randy, you need to write a book about your life.
That's true.
And then you and I get together, and it's like, we ought to write a book about our life.
There's so many things that's happened over the years. I think I've known you since 2001.
Yeah.
So I was 31 years old when I met you.
Yeah.
31.
And you're 60 what now?
Okay, I see how this is going.
Okay.
Anyway, so I've known you, 20-ish years? 23 years? My gosh. When I first met Randy, he had mentioned, he said, 1 year with me is going to feel like 5 years. And I did not understand at that time when he said that. I've understood it ever since then. Every year has felt like multiple years. I feel like I've known you for hundreds of years, if not thousands.
Been a long ride.
There's been a lot of stuff happen since I met you. But I don't know how long you want to go back. Do you want to go back to my birth?
Well, listen, I mean, we could have a series of podcasts, and it could go on for years talking about everything that has happened and done and been, and I always want to, I don't know if I'll always do this, but kind of like a disclaimer. Hey, everybody's got a story.
Everybody has a story.
I just have an opportunity to be able to share
to have
stories on this podcast.
a little bit of a platform to do that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So in
it's
honor,
my party. I'll cry if I want to.
That's right. So in honor of everybody in the world, and I want to acknowledge everybody's got a story.
They do.
But I just hope that, hey, I've got an opportunity to share stories here of myself, plus all the people that we bring in on this podcast, hopefully in the future, that people like to hear. And they're going to be things that I want to talk about, things that people don't talk about, that people are intimidated to say. And they're like, hey, this is going to make me look inferior, or it's going to make me look embarrassing or feel or something. But it's what everybody feels.
Yeah.
It's what all of us as humans feel. We feel sadness. We feel, embarrassment. We feel...
everything. Well, and some people never get over that. Some people don't like to be vulnerable and stuff. And, it's over the years especially, I don't know if I ever cared. Randy has always said that I have a way about me, and I do, and I don't know if that's just the way I was born or what, but I'll have a way of not caring about a certain situation. I'll just let it go, or I just won't let it bother me.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for that, because my daughter, she has bad anxiety and stuff. She has since she was born.
Yeah.
And she's always dealt with that. And I couldn't imagine being in her situation of things bothering me like that.
Yeah.
Like when it goes through her ear, or when it goes through my ear, it goes through my brain and it goes right out the other one. In her head, it gets stuck.
Yeah.
So there's, I've just always been like that. It's nothing that I practiced or anything like that. It's just, I'm thankful. It's almost like a gift to me, because I can see where others suffer from things, holding on to things or things that bother them like that. So.
Right. Well, you've been her rock forever.
Yes, 100%. And you know what? And God knew that. He knew that, I don't have anxiety, thank goodness. A lot of people do. But thank goodness I don't have it. I was able to raise her the way that I felt like that I was supposed to raise her and be there for her. So it's good that I didn't have those things like that that weighed me down, because listen, there couldn't have been two of us having those issues. There's no way. So but anyway, so that's one of the things. I just have that type of attitude, but I was born that way. So I don't know. Would you start from the beginning with the person? What do you do?
You've shared a lot about your life on Facebook and YouTube, and a lot of people know a little bit about you being from Tennessee and stuff. But I want people to probably, they know us and you from a tiny home company that we have here, and so what I'd like to do is just share real quick, maybe a little bit about why you are is because I've heard so many cool stories that I've had opportunity about your grandmother, your great grandmothers, and how it actually sounds like back through the years that the women in your family have been stellar.
Yes.
And they've been the support of a family.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to spend a lot of time with Pearl.
Yeah, Mamaw Pearl.
Mamaw Pearl, and she was your great
grandma. Yeah, she was my dad's mamaw.
So your great grandma.
And we call them mamaw here, of course, which that means grandma,
Yeah.
which is hard to say. Like Randy's boys used to call your parents grandma and grandpa, and it's still hard for my mouth. It doesn't flow in that way.
Yeah.
Me and Tim was just talking about, I said, how do you say pecan? He said today was like National Pecan Pie Day or something. I say pecan. We've got a slow, lazy way that we say things in the South. And he says pecan. And it's hard. That's really hard for me to say.
Happen.
My mouth don't go that way.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mama was born in 1906. She lived to be 107. And she never went any further than Knoxville in her whole 107 years. And this woman was just amazing. There was nobody who didn't love her and didn't want to be around her. She never drove. Her and Papa Hayes, they lived in front of me whenever I was a little girl. I was born in 1970, and I was born September 11th, 1970.
At that time, it wasn't a big deal.
Wasn't a big deal.
Now
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
celebrated.
The only big deal that was going on, I was born. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. In my family, it was a big deal to us. But after that, everybody else said, oh, 9/11,
Yeah.
And it's, of course, extremely sad. Most people, I'm sure, like that year, didn't celebrate their birthday. I did not. So if your birthday was 9/11 that year, you did not celebrate your birthday at all. You didn't even think about it.
Right.
So we were the whole country was still. But Mama and Papa lived in a shack in front of the house whenever I was a little girl. And Mama, there's so many little stories that I can remember about her, she would go outside and sweep the dirt. And that's kind of like a common thing that was back in those days, is that you just cleaned everything off around your porch and stuff like that. You had a banister. I don't know if people still call them banisters.
Yeah.
I guess you call it railing now. But you have a banister, and you set your potted flowers up there,
Yeah.
and you'd have them on the banister and stuff like that. But it was a shack that they lived in up there. No running water, no toilet, have an outhouse. The outhouse is still there. The house is gone. It was in real bad shape, so we tore it down and stuff. And but my mom and papa all lived there, and they worked together like most of their adult life. They were janitors over at Southern Heights Elementary School,
Aw.
which ties into our Southern Heights. Southern Heights has a lot of meaning to it. So that name was not just randomly picked, and I did not pick it either. We'll get into that later, I guess.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was a God-given name.
Yeah.
So, I'm not super religious. I was raised in the church, going to church with Mama. And I got to watch her, how she acted, how she handled herself and stuff like that. She always went to church. She didn't drive, so people would take her to church. And we would hit and miss going to church and things like that. And it was Roe Junction Baptist Church, which is right down from Southern Heights School, Southern Heights Elementary School.
God.
But Mama had a little store out there.
She had a store?
Mm-hmm. Her and Papa had a store that they sold stuff, and they'd put things on credit for people that didn't have the money and stuff. So that whole area is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal in my family for sure.
Yeah.
So, and then of course I had not just Mama Hayes, but because Papa Hayes died, he had Alzheimer's. And we'll get into that too. But he had Alzheimer's. They called it old timers. I really didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
Back then, all I knew is Papa couldn't talk. And he was a big man. He was a tall guy. Wore his overalls, had his overalls. He'd have this hat on, like his leather. I've got one of his hats in the barn still. And, but he was probably he seemed like he was 6'4" or something. He seemed like he was a real tall something. And she was just a little something too. And, so he quit talking. It was 1977 he died. No, I'm sorry, 1979 he died. Because it was right around my birthday. He was actually buried on my birthday, I'm pretty sure, 9/11, 79. So, but he had the old timers, Alzheimer's. He didn't talk. And he walked around real slow and quiet. And he was just a big mountain of a man. To me as a little kid,
Yeah.
And I just remember that he used to grab a hold of us kids. I was scared of him because he'd grab a hold of your feet and he'd pop your toes. And that scared me to death.
Aw.
Yeah, that scared me. But Mama, oh my gosh, I have a lot of good memories with Mama and going up there to her house in the shack. I'd just go up there barefooted. I never had no shoes on, and go up there barefooted and just she would say, Mandy, quit pilfering. So Mandy was always pilfering in her stuff and, messing up her things. And I just remember we'd be in that middle room, and because the middle room is where the bedroom was. So there was like a living room, there was a middle room, there was a bedroom in the back, and there was the kitchen. No running water, nothing like that. Clean as can be, poor as can be, but clean. Everything was clean. And she'd sit there and actually, I wore this dress specifically because it was like a house dress that Mama used to wear. And so Mama used to wear house dresses. All my Mamas did, except for Mama Mullins. But they'd wear a house dress that buttoned up, had pockets, and that's what you cleaned all day. You had that house dress on until you put your clothes on and you went to town, right? So Mama would sit there with their house dress, and it would have it tied up like I've got mine, and she'd sit there, fold her arms up, and she'd just sit there and kind of rock a little bit and close her eyes, and I'd say, Mama, I want to play. Let's play something. And she'd say, Mandy, let's play the quiet game. Let's see who wins. And I was so excited. I said, okay. And I really didn't get it at the time, but she was, she wanted to take a nap. That's what Mama wanted to do.
Settle down.
Settle down, Mandy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? People that listen to this podcast, the reason I wanted to bring that up is there's so many people have known us out the years, and that lifestyle there, that's unheard of.
Yeah, and they don't. People don't know that lifestyle.
You mean your stories sound like they're from the 1940s.
Oh, it was
the 1930s. So you actually were able to live.
Yeah.
I think, and that's what's really unique, and I think's made you who you are, is that you've seen all that, and you're just massively grateful for everything that you have and what you've done and everything. It's
there's so much that, and Randy knows this, of course, but this is sharing with everybody too, is, my land where I live, the property that I own was family property. And we'll get into that too. If it had not been for Randy, I would not have that place today. So that's something that I am forever grateful for.
Yeah.
Forever grateful. That place has so many memories, and it has where I got to raise my kids. My mom and dad, Mama, they raised me there. My brother, we lived there. All my memories are there. I got to raise my children there, thank goodness. And I know you're not supposed to love, property.
Land,
you're not supposed to love cars. You're not supposed to love things. But where the way I am is that, and I have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I have a lot of stuff. And what I have in my house, nothing in my house matches. I decorate the houses here, and now Melody does it, but I would decorate the homes to where they look like they could go in a magazine, okay? My house is not like a magazine. It's more like an antique store. When you walk into my house, it's like an antique store.
But everything in that house has a story.
Everything you touch in my house has a story. I won't have it in the house. It ain't random. So everything that is in my house is there for a reason. And that place means so much to me, and it ties to me so much. Yeah. I mean, it intertwines with my my identity. That place is it's very meaningful to me. If I ever had to leave it, it would kill me.
Yeah.
It really would. It would change me.
I mean, I've offered to build you another house, add another story, tear it down, do something different.
Yeah. No, Randy was going to build me a brand new house, oh my God, years ago, 15, 16 years ago. I don't know what it was. And I said, nope. He said, no. He said, let's tear this and down. Because he wanted.
Well, it was falling down.
And you had really never met anybody probably like me, especially maybe as a woman, that, what woman wouldn't want a brand new house? What woman would turn down a brand new house? And I told him no.
Yeah.
And I said, nope. And you went, you don't even want to change. I said, nope. Because, it wasn't then, but, I don't have that good of a memory for whatever reason it might be. But that place, it's home. My papa built that house. There was a lot of problems with it later on. I'm sure it was great when it was built.
Yeah.
But then after, there was things that they didn't do that it was the demise of the house. And luckily, Randy was able to fix the foundation and fix things to where it was basically condemned, Yeah. And so thank goodness for that it was saved, because I remember things walking in my house. I remember my mama sitting there, I remember being there with my brother and all of us having our friends come over and all that kind of stuff, and my kids being little. So I remember all that stuff. I like things like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and so, being able to have that perspective, and when you told me your grandma lived right out front in a dirt floor.
Yeah.
And then having the perspective, and then it kind of tied into your life too, because
it did.
I was so amazed after meeting you, and like I said, you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
And when you told me that when you were 18 was the first time you'd ever been into a formal restaurant.
Yes.
18 years old.
Yeah, 18. So what happened is me and my mom was from Tazewell. And if you look up Tazewell, I mean, they ain't much there still to this day. There's not much. And Mom was born and raised there. And, we did not have anything. I don't have a sad story, a sad childhood.
No, you've never talked sad.
I've got, I was raised, everybody loved everybody. Nobody argued, fussed, fought, nothing like that. And we were all raised good. Poor, didn't have anything. Really didn't know a lot about the outside world of stuff on some things. We had TV, of course. Now, Mama and them didn't have TV because of, that's just how they, believed. Her son had gotten real religious and that didn't have no TV or nothing like that. So, but she would watch wrestling ever so often.
Everybody watched wrestling.
Everybody watched wrestling. We watched wrestling every Saturday. But anyway, so, we were poor, but we really I didn't feel it until I got into middle school, and we'll talk about that too. That I really didn't know, because all of us out there at Road Junction, that's where I live, Road Junction, and out there at Southern Heights, it's a Road Junction, Southern Heights community out there, and we were all the same. We were all the same. Everybody was poor. Everybody rode bus 29, and it would break down all the time and stuff, and that's just the way it was. So it was, I had a really good raising we were no different from everybody else in the holler, because I live in the holler. So you go, and there's the railroad. So the railroad is right there at my house. You go up my driveway. You have to go over the railroad to go to my driveway. It's a dead end right there. And then on the back side of the property, that's the holler. So, we're out there in the holler, and me and Mill, my neighbor Mill, she's 5 years younger than me. And me and her grew up. Our parents went to work, okay? So you were left alone all summer, all the time. That's just the way it was. There was no babysitters. You don't go to daycare. They didn't do things like that. If they did, we didn't know about it, okay? So me and Lynn and Mill and Sharon, they were right beside of us. They had a single wide trailer at that time. Remember Neighbor Sue?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Neighbor Sue, that is Mill's mama. And, Neighbor Sue passed away with cancer. And, but me and Mill, we ran that whole holler every summer. Every summer. And you couldn't tell us nothing. We'd get up early in the morning. She'd come over at the house, and we'd go walking the railroad.
She's a pistol, too.
Oh, Lord. Let me tell you something. The only one she was nice to was me. Mill, she was a mess. And Emmer, her mama, was over there. So Emmer was home with them, okay? So she lived there on property, too. So Emmer was there around. But listen, she didn't listen to not one thing. Her name is Emma, but we call her Emmer.
Oh, gotcha.
It's just how, I don't know, it's just the way it was. Mill wouldn't listen to nothing. And they used to work at a factory, Lee Wayne Knitting Mill in town, and they made moon boots. And I don't know if people remember what a moon boot is. Okay. I know Mill remembers what a moon boot is, because she'd get a whooping with it all the time. Well, they tried to catch her. She was a slick one. I'm telling you what, she was a mess. But a moon boot was like a terry cloth top and a black rubber bottom that had treads on it. So you would walk in moon boots. Like you could go to the store in them, or you could walk.
They're real fluffy, right?
No, they weren't real fluffy. They were flat. So the bottom part was flat.
Yeah.
Had ridges. You could walk on them like a rubber. It was like black rubber. And then the top, it was like a sock. So you put your foot in there, and it was like terry cloth.
Okay.
So that was moon boots. Is what they called them back then. And everybody had moon boots. And they used to bring us moon boots because they worked there. So whatever factory, and we all worked at factories. So whatever factory you worked at, you always brought home what was extra there, or scrap or whatever like that. Mm-hmm. So, so that's how that went. But my parents were gone every summer. They would all day long. Mama wouldn't be there. She had other things she was doing. And me and Lynn we was at the house by ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that's just that was just our normal way of living. It was not even a big deal because what we did as I got a little bit older, teenage years, all us girls, all you did, you cleaned the house up until 12:30. Okay.
Oh man, I remember this story.
Listen, you
Yes.
clean the house because your parents expected you to keep the house clean while they were at work, right? So you clean the house until 12:30. 12:30, my butt sat down until 4 o'clock.
Wow.
And that was Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, Guiding, or let's see, oh my gosh, what was it? As the World Turns, and Guiding Light.
You watch all of them.
Oh, all of them. And let me tell you something. The year that Oliver North trial was going on,
Yeah.
my mama was fit to be tied. Fit to be tied because it took off her stories. We called them stories back then.
Right.
And it took off her stories the whole summer. Lord, we was mad. I mean, it's like, listen, all that stuff's important, but they televised it on our channel.
Right.
And we were not happy.
Well, what was the story? Wasn't that what Lindsay?
Oh, do you want me to tell that story? Okay.
It's what goes along with that, right?
Okay, so my Mama Mullins was a diabetic, right? And I call it, and everybody in my family calls it diabetes.
Yeah.
We always said diabetes. I still say it. I'll say it right every once in a while, but it's hard for me to straighten up a lot of times. Especially if I get around like everybody in the holler. You just
Forget
don't.
it.
Oh, forget it. I can't try to straighten up my talk for nothing. And there's no reason to. You know what I'm saying? So Lindsay, my daughter, she was born in 92, April of 92. April the 20th. Okay, so Lindsay's birthday is National Pot Day, Hitler's birthday, and the Columbine shootings.
You're kidding. All on that one day.
All in one day.
Gosh.
Yeah, lucky her, huh? Anyway, so she was born. And so Lindsay was probably she went everywhere like you. I don't know how other people were raised, but you always went with your mom and mama somewhere. So every Friday, my Mama Mullins, this is a different mama, this is my mom's mom. So Mama Mullins, she got divorced, her and JR. I never called him Papaw. I called him JR. That was his name, John Ransom. That was his name. And her and JR divorced. And she had to go to work because everybody was just a housewife. You just stayed home, raised kids, and that's all you did. It's all I ever wanted to do, you know. And so Mama got divorced. She bought a house, a small house in town on Jarnigan Avenue. And she paid, I think, $11,000 for it. And what she did, and she went to work. She worked at Hickory Springs, which is a foam company that made cushions. So that was a big deal in Morristown. We had a lot of furniture factories. We had Berkline, Shelby Williams, E.R. Carpenter, where Mom and Ronald worked, and most of my family worked, was foam. So it was actual foam that was in the cushions of the couches and stuff. Well, Mama Mullins, Martha Jane, so I'm named after her, Amanda Jane, and Amanda was from Guiding Light.
Oh
there
my God.
There was a girl on there. There's a lady on there named Amanda.
So soap operas was around your life.
Oh, yeah, stories. Yeah, the stories. So that's what I was named after, Amanda from Guiding Light. Anyway, so Mama worked at Hickory Springs, and she couldn't drive either. That was a common thing back then. A lot of women didn't drive, so Mama didn't drive. So she would pay a lady that worked there, and she would come pick Mama up and take her home and stuff like that. Did it for 25 years. She worked there at Hickory Springs for 25 years. And we all did that. You know, back in the day, it was 25-year, 30-year, 40-year jobs that you had. You stayed at the same place all those years. It's not like that anymore. So, of course, everybody knows that. But anyway, so Mama would, we'd take her to the store. So Friday, I think her name was Janice. Janice is the one that would bring Mama home. Me and Mom would go pick Mama up. We'd go to Hamilton Bank, which is now SunTrust, which is now, the building is Morristown Utilities, in that beautiful building right there across from the library, downtown Morristown. And that used to be Hamilton Bank. And Mama would go every week and go to the bank. You never went through the drive-through. That was not an acceptable thing. That didn't take well with all them that was older. That's a new convenience thing. So you got out, all of us would get out, go into the bank. Mama always put money in her checking and her savings account. And she had a Christmas club. So a Christmas club was a big deal back in the day. And she would put whatever she put in there because she had enough money for all of us kids to get Christmas every year. She was adamant about that. Seth is my son that works here. He's a lot like that. He works in the inventory. He's very organized, pays his bill. I mean, a bill wouldn't no sooner get in Mama's mailbox that she'd have to go run and pay it. Phone bill, light bill, whatever it is. Light bill meaning electric bill. We never called it the electric bill. It was a light bill. So we got to do that every week. And then after we would go to the bank, we'd go to Food City. So Food City used to be up at Crescent Center in Morristown. And we'd go up there. And you'd walk in, and it was right there at the side was all of the bottles that you would turn in. Remember all the Pepsi bottles and all the drinks?
Yes, I sure do.
So you'd have a carton that had like 6 bottles, and you'd take it in there. We always had Pepsi stuff. We drank Pepsi, Mountain Dews, things like that. But it was mainly Pepsi. And we'd take that carton in, so you take in your empty bottles, and you sat them down there, and they were all piled up. It was just so weird. They used to do that. We didn't rinse them out or nothing.
I remember taking them full of ants. All the time had ants.
Yeah, exactly. Because nobody, to my knowledge, we never did rinse them out or anything like that before you took them back. But you took them in and you got a deposit if you got new ones.
Yeah.
So we would do that. And then we went to Food City. She'd get her groceries. Mom get groceries, all that stuff. And I'm going to tell you something else. So she'd always let me get a brownie, like with powdered sugar on top of it over at the bakery back there in the back. And so back in those days, Mom wrote a check for everything. Okay, she always wrote a check. Back in those days, they didn't take the funds right away. Okay?
Yeah.
So most of the time, Mom...
You know what that's called?
It's called kiting a check. We learned that a few, many years ago.
We lived off kiting checks.
We lived off kiting checks. Okay? I'm going to hit the microphone. But we lived off kiting checks. And Mom, because Mama always had money, okay? She worked a factory job. She lived alone. She sat there and watched all her game shows and all that kind of stuff, $10,000, $25,000 Pyramid and all them shows. God. She loved them. Texas Ranger, a Walker Ranger and everything. And she lived by herself, but she kept herself organized. She always had money, always had, everything, but we didn't. Okay. So I was raised, my parents together, they ended up divorcing, but they were together 25 years. They did the best they could at the time, is what I say. They didn't have good credit. They never had money. We would have to borrow money from Mama, both Mamas, Dad's mom, Ruby, and Mama Mullins. We borrowed money. Our phone got cut off. Our electric got cut off all the time. So that was just a normal of my life.
Yeah, and I had never heard of that.
He'd never heard of
before.
that.
I never knew.
No.
Like, your electric got cut off. You didn't pay the bill. I never.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was even
the lights
possible.
The light bill would not be paid and it'd be cut off. So, and we had well water. We had a well. Most of us had a well out there. And when the electric went off, the well went off because the pump quit. So they ain't nobody getting no water. So what Mom learned to do, I keep hitting this. So what Mom learned to do was, so when the lights would get cut off, we'd have to go get the money from one of the Mamas. Somebody gave us money. Mama Pearl too. I never called her Mama Pearl. My kids did. I called her Mama Hayes.
Yeah.
So we would go to Mama Hayes. And Mama Hayes or Mama Mullins or Mama Ruby, and we'd get the money, and then we'd pay the light bill. Well, once you paid the light bill, your water don't just come back on. The lights come back on, but your water don't just come back on. So Mom would go out there and she'd have to prime the pump because you couldn't get the water to come back up unless you primed it to do it. So I seen her do that I don't know how many times. I couldn't, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a total of the times that the electric has been cut off at that address.
I bet there's a history on that. You know what?
I bet
there
out.
is.
I'm going to find out how many times. And sad to say, now this is just for me being disorganized, but my lights have been cut off I don't know how many times by me because, me or Lindsay, either one would be like, did you pay the bill? And I was like, no, I didn't pay the bill. Did you pay the bill? So I think it was cut off this year once. Just one of the things
still.
It's just, what the company always comes first. So the company, in my mind, I've got that stuff going. But anyway, so that happened as a kid. And my mom made a joke about with my dad. She said, Mandy, when your dad dies, I'm going to have him stuffed. I'm going to put him in the corner with his hand out. It was funny because, Lord of mercy, and my dad was the only child, and he was quite spoiled. Even though nobody had any money and everybody was poor and stuff like that, he was one spoiled something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the mammas spoiled him and everything, and they wasn't able to whoop him or nothing like that. Nothing so.
So he had a beat to his own.
Oh,
how do you call that?
He had the rule of the roost.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
And when we started this podcast, and what made me, I wanted to talk about the strength of the women in the lineage of your family.
Yeah.
And part of that, I remember you told me your mom taking care of the light bill, paying the light bill, and also when the pump would freeze, she'd have to, all the water would freeze, always having to get the, with a hair blow dryer out there, stuffing rags around everything. And then when the car wouldn't run, she had to put a pencil in the carburetor.
No, I did that.
You did that, and she said put a pencil in and she'd start it?
No,
How'd that go?
So what happened is that the kid's dad, Steve, he used to have an 85 Jeep Cherokee.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had all the kids in there, and I was over at the gas station. We never had any money. I mean, we just never had any money. And back then that's when there was payphones, right? Well, the Jeep wouldn't start. I didn't know what was going on. So I called Steve. I went over and got on the payphone, and I called him, and I said, I don't know what to do. He said, he always called me Jane. And he said, Jane, get a pencil out there. Oh, get under the hood, go to the carburetor, put the pencil down in there and pour gas down in it and start it.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do. And I never, ever wanted to learn about what a carburetor was. I'm not one of those independent women. I'm not like that. I like to be took care of. I like a man, take care of all them things. I don't want to know all that stuff. But I learned a lot of stuff, probably like a lot of women. You have to learn because you have to learn. And that's what happened with my mom, is that my mom had to do certain things. Yeah. She always kept 2 jobs.
Yeah.
She always kept 2 jobs.
So did her mom.
And so did her mom. And so Mama, she didn't keep 2 jobs, but she always, she'd work all day, and she always put out a big garden every summer.
Yeah.
So, and then she'd can. Everybody would sit around and can, and we would sit around and break beans and stuff. How many times that we broke beans, and how many times that everybody was canning and stuff. The mamas in my life were always in prepare mode. Prepare for winter, to take care of their family. So they were always in a mode of taking care of their family, and it went to me too. Just out of necessity, you just have to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
So, but mom was always the glue of the family for sure. Randy knew mom.
Yeah.
Mom was amazing. She was something, and she passed away. She only lived to be 61. She actually fell dead at work.
And you said she's going to.
I told her, I'm telling you, and I don't
predicted it.
And I don't say this in laughing, but you had to know our personalities, and you had to know our humor that we had with each other. And I always told her, I said, Mom, you're going to die at work. You're going to die at work. Well, now Lindsay tells me that, which I've slowed down some.
Yes, you have.
And but Lindsay's like, Mom, you're going to die at work. And well, Mom did. And she fell dead at work, 61 years old, and which Mom smoked. She didn't eat a healthy lifestyle, and, she did the best she could,
Yeah, she did.
And, but gosh, we all miss her. She was something else. There was 1,000 people who came to my mom's funeral.
Yeah, people you didn't even know.
People I didn't even know. And then she worked at Howmet. We've all worked at Howmet. Steve worked at Howmet and all that kind of stuff. Just a lot of family members. I got friends that work there, my cousins. And Howmet is aerospace. It's like plane parts and things like that. So they shut down the whole second shift to let people come to my mom's funeral. And that was never done, ever. Wow. So she was quite an impact on people. She was just an amazing woman. She always on the go, always wanting to do something, always wanting to learn something, always go, go, go. Remember, she wanted to be a realtor. She took that test, I don't know how many times. She never did pass it. I think she took it 3 times. But she wanted to do that, and she took some kind of a coding class. And, Mom, I remember going with her when I was a little girl. Mom didn't graduate high school, and she went to night classes. Oh. And I had forgotten about that. And she had went to night classes, and I went with her.
What was unique about
to graduate
her,
high school.
That's
something.
Yeah.
She didn't have to do that.
No.
She wanted better over her life, and that her and Dad was married for 25 years. And listen, my parents always came to all my ball games. Whenever I was young, I played basketball. I loved basketball. I ran track. I hated that. I thought that was awful. But whenever I was at Southern Heights, not sure why I ran track. Not sure why I did it, but I didn't enjoy that. But I played basketball from 4th grade on up until I was in high school. And so Mom and Dad always come to the ball games. They always come to the ball games. They didn't go to track meets. They didn't come to, certain things. It ain't like it is now. It wasn't so parent saturated.
Yeah.
A lot of, because they had to work. They had to work, and they had to, if they could come, they could come. But if they couldn't, they couldn't. Yeah. And, kids weren't devastated by that. It wasn't a big deal.
Oh, I mean,
I don't remember seeing my parents sometimes.
My dad never came to one thing. And you know what? Yeah. I never expected him to. There wasn't even.
You didn't expect them back then.
Ever.
It's a different time, but, it's just, I have a lot of good memories.
Me too.
Of my childhood and stuff. I thank God I was not beat. I was not abused.
Yeah.
I was not talked down to.
We were very lucky.
We're very lucky. And that's all it was, guys, was luck. Because it was nothing that my parents did or didn't do or anything. It's just how they were raised. And then how they were raised. Their parents were raised. And so it just passed on. We just got lucky for that. And I feel so sorry for the people because, especially in this company, in the ladies that I've met, the residents, the customers that we have.
Yeah.
It's mainly single women.
Yeah.
That are older. And, they have their little dog and stuff like that. But they have some really sad, tragic stories that I always take the time to listen because I do not relate with it at all. And I have such compassion and just such like, oh my God, how different would I be? I would not be me had I been abused, had I been, all these bad things that happened to some of these people. So, we need to be really aware of, hey, maybe you weren't raised the same as somebody else. You might ought to just think about that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I can figure that out.
Well, and that's why I wanted, I wish we, we don't know where this podcast will go, and I wish younger people could listen to it because, how you lived, like I said, was like back in the 30s.
It was.
It was,
very old-fashioned.
Not being in a restaurant till you're 18 years
Oh,
old.
with you saying that, so to go back, I didn't finish on that. So me and Mom went to church that day, went to Road Junction Church.
Yeah.
And Quincy's Steakhouse was in Morristown at that time, close to downtown. It was right there at Crescent Center. And Quincy's Steakhouse, and Mom said, let's go over, let's go get us something to eat. And
just out of the blue.
It was out of the blue. It was, you know what? Mom was she was trying her best because I was her buddy. She could go, put it this way, she could go anywhere she wanted to as long as she took me. And that was an old-fashioned type of thing. Because when you're married, it's like the husband, you don't go around like women do now. They're independent and they can, if they're married, they independently go, do what they want to do, have separate lives even. Back then you didn't. Mom was allowed to go if Mandy went with her, and it was not a disrespectful thing. It was just a thing of, back then there was an image, I think, of women doing stuff alone like that. And, taking me with her, that softens the blow. It just was not a big cultural shock or something, I think. So my dad didn't do that. He never said that. It was just an implied thing. It wasn't proper to do that, right? So you don't just go you wouldn't go by yourself somewhere like that and or do things like that alone. And So me and Mom went there, and we walked into Quincy's Steakhouse, and we didn't know what to do. I was 18, so that was 88. You know, 80, it was probably 87. I graduated in 1988. Well, in 88, I turned 18 in September. So when I graduated, I was 17 when I graduated high school. But me and Mom just stood there, and they had trays, and we just didn't know what to do. So we just walked in, and we just stopped, and we looked at everybody else, and then we just started following this line, and we grabbed, I swear, it sticks out in my mind. It was a blue tray, and we got this blue rubber-looking tray, and we put them down, and we just watched everybody else, what they did.
That's something else.
Yeah, it was something else.
That is so special. I'd love to recreate that in a movie or something.
Oh my gosh, I can just see it in my head. It was just so weird. We did not know. We were both scared to death. We were scared to death.
Gosh, you know what that reminds me of was when I first took you on an airplane ride.
Oh my gosh!
And your whole family had a meltdown.
Okay, so
it's about yeah.
So Randy and I were going to Las Vegas. This is a big trip, first time, big deal. I went over to my dad's trailer.
And you'd never been on a plane before.
Never been on a plane before, and so. And my mom remarried, and Dad remarried. Dad remarried first to his wife, and they're still married, and they're both living. And my mom married Ronald, which was the kids, Papa and stuff like that. That they was around all the time,
Yeah.
And they were married until she passed, and it was that was each other's the love of their life. That was just the deal. They just loved each other so much, and. And she died in 2013, so August 6th of 2013. Anyway, so I go over to my dad's house, to his trailer, and I'm telling everybody bye. I mean, it's an event. You don't just get on a plane and go, right? And, well, I found out that everybody in the world does.
Not with you.
Everybody in the world gets on a plane and just goes. Well, I made the mistake of telling everybody that I was going on this trip. I was excited about it. I was scared, but I was excited, and it was such an ordeal. I mean, it was my dad gets to crying and touching things in the house and like having to hold on to the counter and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, Mandy, just like having a meltdown. And I'm like, what is happening here? He goes to the hutch. Back in the day, everybody used to have hutches.
Yeah.
If you remember what a hutch is. And a hutch is a great big, kind of like an armoire, if you remember what armoires are. But it's like a big hutch for your dishes that you put your dishes in or display your pretties that you have.
Yeah.
Get things like that. Or things that you found at the flea market. That's a whole nother thing that Dad go to the flea markets all the time and get all these great things. And so he opens up the hutch, which is glass. You can see through it. And it's wooden on the outside. And you open up the hutch. He gets out these 2 cobalt blue salt and pepper shakers. And he takes them and he wraps them up in like a saran wrap, whatever. He puts them in my hand. And he says, Mandy, I just want you to have these. And he pushes them in my hand and walks away. Very dramatic. Very dramatic. And I'm like... I'm standing there like, has everybody lost their minds?
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. Well, I always kind of seen, Mom, I thought was going to be, my dad's like that, okay?
Yeah.
My dad worries about everything. He just does. He always has. Just the way it is, Mandy. Don't go up there, lock your doors. There's people, I'll tell that story.
Ankle slashers.
The ankle slashers, okay? I'll tell that in just a second. But I went over at Mom's. Mom was not, would not let you know she was worried.
Yeah.
Okay? So she was that type. But whenever I told her, because Mom had anxiety later on. I didn't know that. So I'm getting ready to go on this plane and all that stuff, and we're at her house, and I'm telling her bye and all that stuff. She said, Mandy, she said, now, if I ask you to come back, you'll come back, right? And I went, no.
No.
I went, no. And she went, and I didn't catch it. She went, Mandy, if I ask you to come home, you'll do it, right? And I went, no, Mom. I said, what are you talking about? She went, She grabbed me by the arm, like my shoulder. And she
Yeah.
said, Mandy, if I ask you to come home, you'll come home, right? And I went, yes.
Yes.
I got it. Then it clicked. I went,
Yeah, she needed to hear that, didn't she?
She needed to hear that. She needed to hear that I would come home if she asked me to come home. And that calmed her down. That calmed her down. But talking about my dad, he's always worried about everything. Still to this day, he thinks there are certain roads that I don't take because I promised him that I would never travel on them, okay, in Morristown. And I never let him know that.
Yeah. And what was it, the mall?
It's Valley Home I'm not supposed to be on. I travel it every day.
All right.
Every single day. So 2 stories I want to tell about this really quick is that, so my dad told me, he said, Mandy, listen. Everything with my dad is Mandy, listen. That's his catch.
That's what you and I always do. We always say
we do it all the time.
Mandy, listen.
Mandy, listen. So my dad said, Mandy, listen. They're cutting people's ankles up there at the mall. What? They're what? And he said, yeah, they're ankle slashers. And I went, what they're doing, Mandy, is they're laying under the car whenever you come out from shopping over at the mall. When you come out, they're laying under your car and they slash your ankles.
Yeah.
And that's how they get you. Okay.
In Morristown.
In Morristown at College Square Mall. Okay.
Right.
So please, and they are not doing that. Let me just say that. They are not doing that. I don't know where he got this story. I don't know where it came about. I never heard of anybody's ankles getting slashed up there at the College Square Mall in Morristown.
Yeah, but
that's what my dad said.
Well, you know what? You told me that, but he influenced you because I remember when we met, you're going shopping and you had a 9mm pistol everywhere you went.
Okay.
In your purse.
Okay. So
loaded.
This is another story. So my dad has a huge influence on stuff that I've done in my life.
Yeah.
So my dad gave me a .22 pistol when I was a teenager. He gave me a .22 pistol that I always have. I still have it. Okay.
Yeah.
Still have that same gun. He had bought a 9mm gun. My dad would trade knives and guns all the time. It was just a big thing that he did. He always went to Easy Money's. Easy Money used to be Ralph Blanken down there. He had a pawn shop. I didn't know what it was until I got older, that it was a pawn shop, but he called him Easy Money. And my friend Tammy, that was her dad. We went to school together, so that was her dad who had the shop right there downtown.
Aww.
So Dad would go to Easy Money's and he'd trade a gun or a knife or something like that. Something that made Mom mad every single time, because we should have been paying the light bill, but yet we went and bought a gun, okay?
Yeah,
so
right.
that used to be, my dad's not like that now. That's the dad that was in the holler, okay? That was the Road Junction dad. He's totally different now. But, so he gave me this gun, and it was loaded with a clip in it. I'm at Walmart rifling through my purse, and there's that 9mm gun loaded in my purse.
You never thought nothing about it, did you?
Never thought a thing about it. My dad, I was more scared of my dad than I was the law because he told me, he said, Mandy, do not leave this gun in the car. Do not leave this gun at the house. You keep this gun with you all the time.
And that's what
I did, and that's what I did. It's just what I did. I don't know what everybody else did, but that's what I did. And I carried that 9mm in my purse, not because I'm like trying to be some bad something, whatever. He said to do it, and I did it.
How long did you carry that gun?
I probably carried that gun in my probably for a couple of years. Maybe more than that. I think I already had the kids. I think I already had Lindsay. I'm pretty sure I already had Lindsay. I could have already had Seth. I'm not sure. But yeah, I carried that gun, and then he had showed me how to use it.
Yeah.
Once. So we went out there down from the house, and he was showing me how to use it. And he told me, I held it, took it, and all of a sudden because it's automatic, of course. So he said, okay, now go ahead and shoot. And I go, boom, 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 boom. It went straight up in the air. He took it out of my hand. He said, we're done. He said, we're done.
I can see him saying
he said, we're done. You know how my dad is. We're done. So we never had another gun shooting
Yeah.
at all, session at all. So that was it.
Well, he knew you know how to fire it. That's it.
I mean, whether I'd have hit something, I don't know, So, but Dad always had a gun or a knife or something like that. Something I wanted to show in my purse, which, it's over there, but it's okay. But I carry a pocket knife in my purse all the time.
Yeah.
I have got a case. I've got an orange case knife in there right now.
Watch it, everybody. If you don't approach her. Don't approach her unless you're ready to fight.
And I do have a gun in my truck. It's magnetic. It's there on the side. I always carry a gun with me and stuff. And but Dad always said that, he said, Mandy, don't do this, don't do that, don't be there. When I got in my cars, when you get in your car now, they automatically lock.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't back in the day, right? So as soon as I get in the car, slap that down. Always. He said, they can't jerk you out of the car. He said, so nobody will jerk you out of the car. And I always did that. And there's so many things with my dad with that.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated it so much because it did keep me safe.
Well,
it did keep me thinking all the time, Mandy, do you have enough gas? Do you have water in your car? Like in jugs of water?
Yeah.
A blanket? Do you keep things like that? Do you have booster cables? How many cars I have boosted off in my life? Because I never had a decent car until we was until a few years ago,
Yeah.
I always had a car that broke down. And every time I'd break down somewhere, somebody'd pick me up. Every time. I never stood on the side of the road long.
Oh, I mean, pretty girl like you's not going to stand there very long. That's for sure.
Well, I appreciate that. But that was the time period, though, back then.
Yeah.
Talking about that really quick, my dad always picked people up. And this affected me, too. So there's a lot of my dad. I know I have my mom in me, of course, but I've got a lot of my dad. Yeah. And so my dad would pick up, there was this one guy, Jimmy, he'd pick up all the time. He was a drunk, and he'd walk out there in Road Junction, walk home from the bar or wherever he was at. But he had been drunk, and Dad picked him up all the time with us kids in the car. It was usually me and Dad. I don't remember Lynn being there. He was annoying, so I didn't. Yeah.
Lynn's your brother.
Lynn's my brother,
yep.
And we're 9 months apart. But Dad would pick up people on the side of the road all the time, and that was just a normal thing. And I have in my lifetime, I have picked up people, helped people, give money. They live with me. I do extreme stuff that people normally don't do.
Yeah. And
I know I got that from my dad. Now, my dad never went to the lengths that I did.
Right.
At all. But that spirit from my Mamaw Hayes to Mamaw, everybody helping people, giving money, I remember a couple that used to come to Mamaw Mullins' house all the time. They'd walk there. They didn't have a car. They'd walk there, and every time they come there on a Sunday, we'd go over at Mamaw's every Sunday, and she'd give them money. And when they were there, they would come, and she knew why they were there, and she'd always set them aside a little bit of money.
Well, I know you do the same for a couple families still.
I do.
That.
I do too. So that's where I got it from. And one of the things too is that and I got this spirit too, because a lot of people probably ask how we can work together.
Yeah.
Because, Randy and I were married. What year did we get married? 2011?
Mm-hmm.
We got married in 2011. We were married for 5 years? We were
2014, 2015.
Yeah, I think we dated for several years before we got married. And then, but people how do you guys get along and stuff? And it hasn't been easy at all, but I mean, we've got a good working relationship now. And, but my Mamaw Mullins, when she got divorced, okay, mom, her brother and her sister they were 18 years old. They'd moving out of the house and all that stuff. JR had gotten with Mamaw's first cousin.
Okay.
So now they're a couple. Mamaw's first cousin, okay. They got married and went to Rutledge to live, and they had a kid and everything. We would go visit Mamaw's cousin and JR.
Wow.
And that's her ex-husband.
Yep.
So that's how I was raised.
Everybody got along.
Everybody got along. And I think that's why if something that, because, people are like, oh, I'd never work with my ex, or I couldn't do that, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That set the tone, I feel like, for you get along.
Well, my folks had been married 75 years, and I always, I always tell everybody it was the longest fighting war there ever was.
Longest war ever fought.
But you couldn't separate them.
No.
And no matter if they would have got a divorce, I know that would have been just like that. They would not have been apart.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
So even mine wasn't like that. But I don't know. I think everybody knows, just hearing this whole story about you, that, you're a special person.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And so you just don't, and I'm special too,
Okay, well, this podcast is about me.
But
Randy, back to me.
you just don't, and we don't want to get into our personal lives and all that stuff, because that's why that tissue's sitting there. And we don't want to go there, but
we had a lot of hard years, and it's not something, like you said, we want to delve into and stuff like that, but we had a lot of hard years. We had, not with just being married, there was such extreme, unusual circumstances that we know now other people didn't deal with.
No.
And there was just things that we dealt with that weren't normal. And it was very trying. I mean, we're talking, it was hard years, hard living, hard stuff. And then you put no money on top of that. So we went back to poor, and of course, I knew how to live poor. I still know how to live poor. If I have to do without money, I'll do without money, you just do it,
Yep.
I mean, we ain't sitting on stacks. People think we are. We're not. But we are better off than what we were. Mm-hmm. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
The company is in a better position than what it was. Everything's in a better position now. And we are thankful for that. And we do know that we've worked for that. We worked hard for it, and many, many sacrifices.
Yeah.
Went into creating incredible tiny homes, and all that we have done here, and just living life.
Yeah.
It's just been tough. But I listen. If I had to do it again, I'd go back to it. I got the house. I'd go back to whatever I got to do. I would go back to a factory. I worked in many factories, most factories. Howmet, sample makers back when I was a young girl. Berkline, I just talked about this. There was a guy, I wish I remembered his name, but he got in my face like this and screamed at me. So I was a young girl. I hadn't had Lindsay yet. I was like in 91, so I was like 19, 20 years old. And, factories back then, you worked on piecework. And it was a man's job. I mean, that's just the way it was. And all these guys on the line, kind of like we got a line, but they had all these guys on the line, and I was a material handler. And his girlfriend actually was training me for that job. He demanded everything to be there exactly how it was, because it depended on their checks. It affected their checks. So if they didn't have all the materials that they needed to do that assembly line, their check was going to be less. It was a big deal. That's how they fed their families. That's how they provided for themselves. That was their thing. Being able to be on an assembly line and getting piecework, that's like having overtime and not having to work overtime. So I didn't understand that as a young girl like that. So he yelled at me. I mean, I bawled and cried. I just didn't know what I was doing that was so wrong. I mean, you leave out one piece.
Yeah.
He was on me, buddy. And, they couldn't yell at you like that now. But, I mean, he was a grown man, beard, intimidating, in my face, pointing his finger. And I'm like, I did not get it.
And you know what? But you know what?
Scary.
It's unique. You telling me that story.
Yeah.
Is that you felt awful.
I did.
And you were like, I've really messed up.
I did.
I am so sorry, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm finding this, and
it's a different attitude
people now get mad at him.
It's weird because
I've got rights, and you know what? You don't need to be yelling at me like that.
All I could think of was those families. All I could think of is the money that I kept them from making. That was my fault. That was my job. I was not doing my job. And so that was one of the things that I think it's changed over the years.
It's changed 180 degrees.
It has. I mean, 100% it has changed. Even at school, you know, I knew when I did something wrong, you know, and you were wrong. And I accepted that. You know, to accept being wrong is a big deal. And it's something that's necessary in life because not everything is not your fault. There are things that are your fault.
Well,
there are things that are your fault.
I remember when I was 18, 19, I helped a buddy of mine landscape a lot, and his subdivision was going up, and it was an empty lot. And he told me, fill that wheelbarrow full of all of our weeds and scraps and take them dumping it in an empty lot.
Yeah.
I didn't know any better. So I take it over there, and I dump that empty lot. And, man, there's somebody yelling. I didn't know where the voice was coming from, and I'm over there doing that. He come up behind me and just shoved me, man, just hit me from behind, threw me on the ground, and
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, he was a grown man.
Grown man.
He was the contractor on that job site, and he cussed me and said, you do not take and put your stuff on my lot like that.
That's right.
Man, I felt horrible. I didn't know that was his lot. I didn't know how to do none of that. But I didn't get up and get mad at him or anything. I was like, you know, I am sorry. Yeah. And I'm going to clean this up.
Well,
I didn't know anything.
You need to know when you do something wrong. You need to feel bad. You don't need to instantly
defend
feel good.
Yourself.
You don't need to instantly defend yourself or feel good. If you do something wrong or if you wrong somebody, you need to feel bad. Sit there in it and be like, you know what?
Own it.
I'm really sorry.
Own it, man.
I did own it, accept it, and say, you know what? I did do wrong, and I'm really sorry. And for other people on the other side of it, you need to be like, you know what? They're sincere. And they did mean that. And they didn't mean to do something wrong.
Yeah.
So, and we need to have forgiveness. So there needs to not be bitterness, holding grudges, having something, a chip on your shoulder your whole life and stuff like that. Now, some people's not sorry. And that's okay. That's whatever they want to do. It ain't right. You know, people say, oh, well, we can do whatever we want to do. No, you can't.
No.
If you act like that throughout this world, you're not going to do good with people. You're not going to benefit society. You're not going to be able to have a nice relationships with people.
Well,
being friendly and just like let things go.
You know, running this company the way we have.
Yeah.
How many times have I had to call a customer and said, I'm sorry that you didn't get the house that you wanted, or there's something wrong with that house.
Because nobody's perfect.
And I said, it's my fault. I'm sorry, and we're going to have to fix it. And
That's right.
And we do.
Yep.
And it's called eat and crow.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to eat it, man, and you got to own it. And you know, Amanda, and you know this, over the years, 90+% of the people that you do that with,
they're great.
They're great, and they understand, and they say, thank you for just trying and doing what you said you'll do.
That's right.
And,
exactly.
And that's how it's really been.
Well, and two, you know, it's what I'm afraid of, that in this day and time that's not being taught. I mean, it is instantly, like you can see it in the videos. I don't know if it's a social media. Social media is great, but then it can be terrible all at the same time. So it's like people that are instantly defensive and instantly mad and stay mad. And it's like, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, to live a peaceful life or to try to get along with everybody, you need to try to forgive and let go. You don't have to forget certain stuff. Some people, there are things that's done to people that you just can't forget. But you need to forgive and just do it for yourself. Do it for your family, just where you can be a better person and feel better for yourself. You know, it's not about the person who wronged you, because some people get wronged really bad. And it's to a level of they were harmed in a unbelievable way.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to try and move forward and just let that go.
Well, I wanted the world to meet you in a way, just a little bit in this podcast, and to see who you really are, because you come across on our channel or YouTube that, you know, bubbly and fun, and you are the, you know, I tell her she's the gas, the spark, and the bomb that goes off for this company, you know, and you're the one, when she walks up on the job site or comes into the factory, you can just feel the energy. The people, the guys, they're all smiling, and then she's talking loud, and And we know when she's not having a good day, because then when she walks in quiet, everybody,
Yeah,
we miss
what's
that.
wrong?
We miss her energy. And I know that's what's been my attraction for years, you know.
Yeah.
And still is.
Just like whenever you brought Ace in there, he couldn't get in the door fast enough, and he ran straight to the kitchen and he found me.
He found you, man. He smelt you down on the floor. Yeah.
Well, people are attracted to energy, good energy and stuff like that. It's something that is, being nice, being kind, having fun. I love having fun. I love silly fun. I love, like I've talked about growing up, I love wrestling. I like cars. I like going to the movies. I like watching movies. I like doing fun stuff. I mean, I was 100% the person who should have never worked. It was not meant for me to work. I remember I worked over there at Exit 8 over at KTN.
Yeah.
And that factory's still there. And I worked there. That was my last factory job before coming on, doing full-time tiny homes. Because I worked part-time at Cato down there. So we could have insurance. Remember I had the health insurance or whatever? So I worked part-time at Cato, and then I got a full-time night shift job, working a graveyard shift over there at KTN.
Over at
KTN.
Was it college after that? Carson Newman?
Oh, no, that's the year Mom died.
Okay.
I left there when 2013 when Mom died. But the last time I worked a factory job was KTN, and that was it was 2014. So 2015 probably was the last time I worked. 2014, 2015 is whenever I quit working factories. And believe me, I've worked at all of them. I worked at Anchor Brush. I worked, you name it, I worked at it. And I worked over there, and the guy, I worked at this specific machine. You're supposed to stand there. If you've worked in a factory, you're supposed to stand there. You're supposed to work on the machine, and that's what you're supposed to do. Well, the supervisor come over, and he said, listen, how come all these people's coming over here? You're keeping people. They're coming over here and talking to you. What's going on with that? And I said, I don't know, because I was doing my job. I was staying right there, but everybody was coming from their machines and coming over and talking to me. He said, listen, you're disrupting the place. I said, well, I'll tell you what. I made him a deal. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I hated that machine. I said, won't you let me quit doing this, and I'll go visit everybody, and I'll be a social butterfly. I said, I'll just run around, and I'll just talk to everybody.
Now, that's your dad in you right there.
That's my dad in me right there, okay?
Yeah.
So I literally proposed that, and I'm going to tell you one more story after that.
Yeah.
I proposed that to this supervisor, and he said, no. I said, hey, that would keep everybody from coming to my machine. I said, I'll go to them. Anyway, that didn't fly. I wanted to tell real quick, maybe two more quick stories. In the factory, I will never forget this guy's name, Bob Mould, Mould, Bob Mould. He was just out of college. He was a supervisor over at Berkline. I mean, he was just he was a good-looking guy, tall guy, but he was a supervisor. You didn't fool the supervisor. Supervisor walked around in a suit and all, tie and all that kind of stuff, whatnot. And I worked with a bunch of men. I always did work with literally a bunch of men all the time, because I grew up with my brother, with his friends, and that's usually the crowd I hung around, right? So I'm at cutting leather on a table. You flip the leather hide out on the table. This is for couches and recliners and stuff. You took a knife and you put all the pieces down, and you covered it, and you saved as much scrap as, you put here's the couch cushion, here's this, and you try to do as least scrap as possible, right, to save some money. So you put the pattern down, and you cut around this cardboard pattern, and you cut out a couch cushion. You cut out that, because then the women on the other side would sew it. So they'd sew all that together, and then they'd put the foam in it, and you made a couch cushion, right? Make these couches and everything. So I was the only girl in all these guys. There was probably about 10 guys, and I was the only girl. And I was, oh my God, I was 18, 19 years old, whatever I was. And I left, was walking out of the place that day. Everybody else is still working. And it was like, I don't know, like 1 or 2 o'clock, something like that. And that Bob Mould, he said, where are you going? And I went, well, I got a hair appointment over at Clip and Curl.
Clip and Curl.
Listen, I used to go to Clip and Curl and get a perm. And I told him, I can't believe how stupid I was. How stupid you are when you're young like that.
So you weren't off work yet?
No, I had an appointment. I think it was at 2:00 that day to go to Clip and Curl and get over and get a perm in my hair. And he went, "What?" And I went, I'm going to get my hair done. And he went, he was literally, I could see his eyes now. He's like looking around like, is anybody else hearing this? And I mean, I walked out and left. I can't believe he didn't fire me. I'd have fired me.
You walked right out and
I walked right out. I said, I got a hair appointment.
And you didn't think nothing of it?
Nothing. Didn't think a thing about it. I went and got my perm. I didn't worry about nothing. I'd have fired me. That was so stupid. I mean, you just didn't think about that. Last thing I want to say about the factory is that I worked over at Anchor Brush. Third shift in Crest, I mean, we did toothbrushes, Anchor Brush. It was toothbrushes. Crest was a department there at that was in the basement, and it was top secret. It was whenever the new toothbrushes for the babies were out. It was like big fat handles. It was a brand new thing. So you had to go downstairs. We had to sign papers. You couldn't talk about it. It was a big secret thing. Colgate was at the top. So Colgate is up on the top here, and Crest is at the bottom. Crest, you go downstairs, punch a code to get in. It was like going into Washington or something. Wow. It was really weird. And it was air conditioned and all this kind of stuff. And it was, it was just big labs, all this stuff. Anyway, so I worked in the packaging where you packed them, right? So we're on a machine called the Jones. And it was the Jones machine.
I'll be darned.
Swear to goodness. And this guy, which he's passed away now, is very sad, but Clark French. Talk about a character. That boy was a character. We were all honestly worthless on that shift. I mean, listen, we all took every opportunity we could to go to sleep. We were all tired. It was third shift. It was a mess. But some nights we'd kick it into gear, right? So we're on a machine. So here we're on a line, and I'm standing beside Clark. And here comes the supervisor, Tom started with a B. I almost had it. But anyway, Tom come up there, supervisor. Clark completely fell asleep. He is on the line, head down, asleep, literally. And we're supposed to we got boxes up here that's got toothbrushes, and you're supposed to put them on this machine, and it goes on down, and it goes and gets in the box.
So he's standing.
He's standing there and fell asleep.
And gone.
Yeah. Here comes Tom right along there, and all of a sudden, I take my elbow, and I nudge him like that, and Clark goes, "Amen." He was dead asleep. He was dead asleep. Clark was a personality. And I'm telling you what, he saved his head. Tom hated him. Tom hated Clark. And Clark was kind of like the leader. We all followed him for something. Yeah. They even went to Clark and said, "Hey, listen, if you could do right here, people follow you for some reason."
Yeah.
And he said, if you could just be a good example to everyone, we would really appreciate that. But yeah, he was dead asleep and he said, "Amen." So he saved himself. So I have seen some stuff of that way. Yeah. I said briefly that I was never meant to work. And I say that because all I ever wanted to do was be married and have kids. That's all I ever wanted. I was in the FFA, which I loved in high school. I absolutely loved Future Farmers of America. Loved all that kind of stuff. Loved being around all the guys, all that kind of stuff. That was just my thing. And but I never did want to do any more than be a wife and a mom. That's all I ever wanted to be. And I was fortunate enough to get to be a wife and get to be a mom and get to raise my kids and stuff. And now I have grandkids. I have 2 grandkids, Carter and Connor. And I got to go over there the other night and give them a bath and stuff like that. So, it worked out. And I'm still in the same house that I was born and raised in. Same house same property out there in Road Junction. And that's where I will die there. I plan on being buried there, actually. Every time I tell somebody, they're like, "What? Yeah. Can you do that?" And it's like, yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be buried right there.
Man.
So it means a lot to me. It formed me. Southern Heights formed me, that area. So that's one of the reasons, I said that I was driving down the road and the name Southern Heights just popped in my head. So that was kind of talking about the property that potential new small home community in Morristown out in Russellville.
Right.
That's why we called it Southern Heights.
Right.
So.
Right.
So in a nutshell, that's basically it.
That's
and
it. And
is it.
Well, I just, and I didn't do this because I know a lot of our audience on our YouTube channel are a lot of women.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
and I really don't know all of, but you can tell on the algorithms or whatever Karsha showed me. But
Yeah.
I wanted everybody to see this side of you that they never have seen.
Yeah.
They see the pretty side. They see the energy. They see you're just
Yeah.
on Facebook all the time, always dressed really nice and pretty and all.
Yeah.
You know, haven't seen the part you, man, getting it and tagging stuff on and really
Yeah.
and that side of you and why you are the way you are.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to, and when I thought about it, I thought, you know what? And you haven't, I don't think you had thought about it a lot. And we had talked before about, I started thinking, I thought, man, the women in your family have been cornerstones of the family, like matriarchs, you know?
Yeah,
And,
they were.
you know, I know that me in this business we would never be where we're at without you.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. So, you know, no, it just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
You know.
I appreciate that.
So, yeah, there's just so many things we could talk about our life together, and
I know.
there's
It's,
not
it
enough.
was, we had talked about before that, our relationship, personal relationship, didn't make it of the being married and things like that. But, I think I talked about it on a video not long ago that, God must have had a different relationship in mind. And this one with the company has worked. It's one that it was like needed. And I think it was for a bigger picture. Because when we start thinking about the residents here, when we start thinking about our customers that have gotten a home, that they would have never had a home, Randy. They would have never had a home. You can't tell me that God didn't have a little bit of something involved in that. And he steered us in a direction to what this is today, and that I think is going to continue on. Because if we was to take everybody out there individually and interview them, the stories are unbelievable. And we may do that because everybody does have a story. And there's a reason why Incredible Tiny Homes was born. There's a reason why people are here in Newport and why this community started, and why, the majority of these people were in their homes alone. And you've always said this, is that, people aren't meant to be alone. They're not meant to be alone. And this community is thriving. It has changed their lives.
Yeah.
And for that, it's a great partnership for that, for sure. If nothing else for that, because we made a difference. And we did not intend for that. We did not set out for that. Some people think that we set out, we're going to do this community, none of that was ever talked about.
Nope.
We were in the backyard in Roe Junction in Morristown. We started in Morristown. Randy did the first Hobbit house in 2014, and it started in Morristown. It's been 10 years, and it was just for money. It was just for groceries. We were not making any money. It was awful. Him and I were job to job. Randy was taking jobs in Arizona, go away for a while, come back. He was up in Bristol, up in there for the longest time, and we're just scrambling to try to get something going. And you made it happen. We made it happen.
Yeah.
So there's stuff, big sacrifices, but for what's come of it, it's totally worth it.
Well, last night it was late, and I was walking around in between the two buildings,
Yeah.
And the moon was out just a little bit. There's a sliver, and I looked at everything, and
I seen that. It was a crescent moon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking at that moon, and it shined down a little bit about the buildings and everything out here, and I was getting down on myself,
Yeah.
And
It's easy to do.
Yeah, and I just thought, man, this place looks so unkept. There's so much materials around here, and I thought about that big arch building. It has some leaks in it,
Yeah.
but how we built it was just crazy, And then I started thinking about we had to add this building. Then I thought about the building we're in right now, that it actually had it up and it fell down, and I had to build it again, then I look out in the prairie, the community, and how we got so many materials laying out there. And I just thought about how there are people who live here that are so negative to me and say so many bad things about me on social media. And I feel horrible about it. And I'm thinking, man, I'm just a failure, you know? And I thought, how come I can't be like everybody else and have money to do it just like this? And I've ruffled so many feathers. I mean, I got the mayor of Cobb County doesn't like me. The politicians of Cobb County don't like me. The mayor of Hamlin County called me saying, why are you doing what you're doing on Southern Heights? I've got, people that live here have vowed to take us out of business. I mean, I'm like, what have I done other than what you said is build homes? And I've never overpromised. I've just said, hey, this is what I want to do, right? I may do this, but all I've obligated to do is give you a lot with $200 a month and I'll keep the roads open. And so last night I was getting down on myself. I thought, how come it's like this? Why can't I just do everything the way it needs to be done and there's no upset? Like you build the whole community first and then you bring people in and you got all these attorneys and you got, a 42-page lease and and it's pre-approved and it's all this stuff.
Right.
And we did everything by ourselves on a table and from our heart and from what we just knew, and we just went with it, and and I started thinking about it, and I was getting, and that happens a lot to me, and but last night something just stopped, and I stopped and I thought, you know what, we did the best we could.
Yeah, one of the things that I say all the time is that you did the best you could at that time. And you have to really think about what that means. You did the best you could at that moment. Would you do it different now? Probably. Looking back on some situations in our lives and stuff, would you do it differently? Probably would, But at that moment, you have to think about what was happening at that moment.
Yeah.
At that time, what were the circumstances that was surrounding you?
We made something out of nothing.
Made something from nothing. And so we did the best that we could at the time. And now, and you learn from stuff. You learn from mistakes.
Yeah.
You learn from certain things. We've learned a lot in 10 years.
Listen, and this is where I wanted to go with this, why I brought all that up. And I've been the motor, and I've been the hammer and the arms, and I've been the physical part of this whole entire company.
Right.
But you are the one, and I gotta, I gotta watch. I don't get choked up, but you always defended me, and just like you are now, and saying, "Hey, you take." Now I told everybody that she'd take a buzzsaw on to defend me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll look at it as a defeat, or I could have done better. And you always tell me that's the Dorothy in you, my mom.
Yeah.
Because I could never do enough to please my mom, and and you would always say you did everything and defend me to the nines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you called me yesterday with a situation. I won't tell what the situation was. And I said, we're not taking that on. That was not us.
Yeah.
And we've learned that over the years. I've definitely learned that over the years. It's like, listen, there's some things you just don't take. There's certain things you don't take. It's like, listen, we did
we
best.
Did right. We
did
everything.
right. We did the best that we could, and we're not accepting that.
Yeah.
So, but we help each other with that. Because, it's, I get down too, and you have to help lift me up and stuff. So the partnership here has I'm telling you what, it's made a big difference. This company, it's more than just a company. It's more than just a paycheck. It's more than that. It was way bigger than what we ever thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Way bigger. And looks like it's still growing. So it's still going because people need affordable housing. They need a place to live. And the stories we get, it's unbelievable. So, and it's good that both of us have a heart and that we care about people, sometimes to our own fault. But you know what? I don't regret helping one person that I've helped in my life. I don't care if they did me wrong, if it came out bad, anything like that. I don't regret it because my intention and your intention was to help. And, it's just like when you give somebody a gift. If you give them something, whatever they do with it, don't worry about it. You did what you wanted to do with it. Give it to them, and that's it.
That's it.
Let it go. I
Yep.
don't care if they talk about you. I don't care if they throw it away. I don't care if they I don't care what they do. Lie about you, whatever they're trying to cheat you out of stuff. It doesn't matter. You did what you felt was right to do, and that's always the best way.
Yeah.
Always doing the right thing is always the best way.
Right.
It always comes out.
Well, and you've been able to help bring a balance into my life, and being able to, I'm always the one, I could have always done more.
Yeah.
My dad used to tell me, I'd be carrying boxes, Lord, I had my arms full, and you've heard that story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got it all. And he'd look at me, and he'd sit back on his lazy boy chair, and he said, son, he said, you can't carry any more.
Yeah.
I said, Dad,
Yeah.
I can. He goes, well, let me ask you something. He said, if you had all the feathers you could carry, could
Yeah.
you carry one more?
Now I love hearing that.
I said, well, yeah, Dad, I can carry another feather. Feathers are like, he just shake his head.
It's like you don't get it.
Yeah, he don't get it.
Yeah.
And he knew that I would just constantly carry more. Mm-hmm. I would pile
Yeah.
more on. And then he would look at me
Yeah.
and he'd say, boy, you drilled a big auger.
Yeah, always.
Always.
And see, your dad told you that. My dad told me, he said, when you've done all you can do, you've done your best.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I've always remembered that Dad said, is that when you've done all you can do, you've done your best.
See, and I never did that. My
And
dad
that
would tell
was
me that. And I said, Dad, no, we can do more.
He was trying to get it through to you.
Yeah.
But the attitude and the drive that you have, and you do get that drive from your mom. You got that from your mom. But that drive that you have built this company from nothing, from scraps, Randy. Brothers Cove, the fight that you had over there, the adversity that you had against you there, everything that you had against you there, and it is gorgeous, one of the top resorts in the county. I mean, from nothing to something. So it takes both. My attitude could not have got us to this point. But my attitude got with your attitude, and your determination got us here. So it is a partnership that I think is a God-driven new, hey, the two of these two, they don't work out over here, but they need to do this together to make this go. And it has. That's proved itself.
Yeah.
Looking back. You can't see it right in the front of it.
Yeah.
But looking at it now you can see.
Yeah. I need you.
Yeah, and I need you. That's just the way it goes. So we needed each other in a way we had no idea how we needed. And the way we needed that to make this company work has benefited so many people. And so in that turn, the way we like to help people, we've helped more people than we could have ever individually helped by starting this company.
Yeah.
So
And we're not a for-profit.
We're not.
I mean, a non-profit.
A non-profit
We want to make
organization.
money, and we're here to make money.
And we never
you know?
intended it for that, but it has turned out to be,
It's just,
it
like
just
you
came.
it's from where you're from.
Yeah.
It's
that's
from
right. Mm-hmm.
where I'm from. I wasn't raised as like you were.
Right.
But my folks were, and
Yeah, they were raised like
we're
me.
down to earth. We're blue collar.
That's
and,
right.
and how do you, who was I? I was talking to Todd.
Okay,
Okay.
Todd.
I was talking to Todd.
He's up in Michigan.
My buddy up in Michigan. Hopefully he'll be watching this.
He's
but I
the
was talking to him.
engineer. Yeah.
So he goes, get this. So he goes to the judge up in Michigan. He had to go to court about some business thing he had to do. And the judge wavered in his favor.
Really?
Yeah, the judge said, come on up here, Todd.
That's great.
The judge would come up here and he says, I'm going to go against, he said, I'm never going against my officers over here.
Yeah.
It was about a building and had to have some work done on it.
Right.
And they cited him for it. And he said, he said, I never go against my officers. He said, but this morning, he said, I'm going against my officers. He said, I'm in your court.
Really?
The judge did.
That never happened.
Yeah, and the judge laughed and liked him, and he said, how much time you need to get that thing done? He said, October, fine. He goes, you got it. He said, leave this guy alone. He said, let him get his stuff done.
Listen, that is so encouraging, because I'm telling you what, people love to tell on people, right? They love to tell on businesses, and they love to do this, and it's like, listen, there are places and stuff, there are things that are wrong, that are dangerous and stuff. That's a whole different ball game and stuff. But the common person, the mom and pop shops, they're almost obsolete.
They're hard. It's hard to navigate in this world. But I wanted to say how what happened was right after Todd got done with his case, Todd said he sat down, and this older gentleman, who was about 78 years old, stood up. And he hobbled up to the microphone, and they had cited him for his house. He couldn't mow his grass.
Oh.
And he said the house was kind of falling a little bit down, and it needed a bunch of work.
Yeah.
And they gave him a fine for it. And Todd, I don't know why everything gets to me now.
I know.
But Todd said, he said, hey, I said, me and my guys will be over at your place.
Over and we'll mow your
and we're going
yard.
to take care of this guy.
Now, is that
Todd didn't know the guy from Adam. And I said, Todd, you and I ain't never going to have dime.
No, listen.
And Todd doesn't have anything. He's struggling, you know.
I know.
And he said, I'm going to take a couple of my guys. We're going to come over. We're going to mow your grass. We're going to clip your hedges. And that guy looked at me and said, why are you doing that?
I know.
He said, oh, come on, man. He said, we'll be over. Don't you worry about it. He said, well, I ain't got money to pay you. You know, and Todd's going to go over there and take care of this guy. I told Todd, I said, you and I need to stay away
from people.
Stay away from the public. Stay away from everybody.
I'm telling you what, me and Randy and now Todd, I can't help it. I mean, I would never brag about anything, but the people that have, came into my life for whatever reason, I don't think that it's an accident who you meet. There's a reason why you meet certain people, either to learn a lesson or to help them or whatever it is that you have going on, right? Whatever situation, it's no mistake. And the people that have been helped through us, through the company, through us personally, it's nothing I would ever change. Listen, I give away most of my paycheck. I'll just say it. I just do. I give it away. And as long as I'm okay with what I've got going on, as long as I can pay my bills and all that kind of stuff, my house is paid for, my land's paid for, my vehicles are paid for, all that kind of stuff, thank God.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Yeah. And you're the same way, I know. So.
Well, we had that big layoff we had to do. And I told on a video, yesterday's video, I don't know if Carson got it out or not for the YouTube.
I don't think it's out
and
yet.
I mentioned on there, I said, I kind of apologize, and I thought about you because you're like, don't you apologize, because you're proud of what we are and who I am.
I'm very proud of what we are.
It was Memorial Day.
Yes.
And I did not know it was Memorial Day.
I didn't either, and I want to tell you why, because if everyone could understand how hard it was to pick and choose people to have to let go, it was horrible. Randy had the hardest job to go out there and face everyone and tell everyone this news. Sales dipping down, the economy not doing well, having to pick certain people over people. We had to go by performance. There was no other way to do it, because you have a company. This company is our baby. We have to protect our baby. We have to protect those who are still remaining to keep the company going.
And
to
our
keep
customers.
And our customers give us this money to get their homes. We owe that to them.
Yep.
We have to make the best decisions possible. And for anyone who doesn't understand that and took it so personally, that's something you got to work out with God.
That's
because that is something you have to do as a business owner. It was not easy, but it was necessary. And we had to do what we had to do. And it just so happened to fall on Memorial Day.
I didn't know it was a holiday.
I didn't connect the two until afterward. It was such a hard time.
I was a blank for 2 weeks trying to come up to that point.
It was awful.
And I had shared with on that video yesterday. I don't know if you got the pre-edited or anything yet.
I haven't got to see it yet. No.
But I said, my dad raising up, he worked 7 days a week. He worked swing shift, and so he was. I think out of 17 holidays of me growing up, like Christmas, he might have been there 2.
Right, exactly.
He worked. 4th of July, we never had vacations in the summer,
right?
Like everybody else did.
Yeah.
They had to take me out of school.
Yeah.
out of the middle of the school year, and I'd take all my homework with me if we went anywhere.
Yeah.
And we just never celebrated birthdays.
Yeah.
I mean, not birthdays, but holidays.
Holidays.
So when I became self-employed,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I worked all the time. So
Yep.
I've worked from since 29 years old, all the time for myself.
Yep.
And there's no disrespect. I have no disrespect. And Lord, honor our soldiers and honor the different holidays to celebrate all the people that they're made for.
Absolutely.
I would totally, but when it came to making money and working, I don't know. This is who I am.
One thing didn't mean the other at all.
Yeah.
And that's how,
Right.
it was of no offense of anything.
Nothing.
And it's like, the people that stayed, that we had to go by performance. We had to go by attendance. We had to go by what was the best for the company and our customers. And anybody who owns a business understands that.
Well, I've had a couple calls that was questioning what was going on, and not that I had to explain anything, but I was very cordial and explained the situation. And then I said, what's funny is that you're asking me why this, why that, and is there a question about anything going on in the company and all this? And I said, well, you know what? I said, that's going to be my word against what you're hearing, unless you come over and you want to see our books and see where we're at financially. That's nobody's business, but I don't care to show it.
Yeah.
And then I said, have you heard of anything that we had over $50,000 in personal loans loaned out to these gentlemen?
They did listen.
That it was wavered and I never collected?
They didn't hear those stories.
Did you hear that we had a hot tub rented every Friday night for months over in Hot Springs for these guys to take their wives to build a relationship?
Right.
And Amanda, do you know how many stories of guys still tell me how beautiful experience that was with their wife, that they were helped their marriage? But you didn't hear about what we did there.
You didn't hear about the good stuff. Well, what about the houses that we've given employees?
We gave houses away.
The cars, the money, listen, we care about people.
We gave tools away the day they were laid off.
I think because it's just so much on social media now.
Yeah.
That this came about because, listen, layoffs. I have been laid off. I have been fired. I have been yelled at. I have been cussed at. I got up and I went and got another job. And that's what I did. That's what you're supposed to do. We had to do what we had to do as a company. It was very sad. We did not want people to lose their jobs. But I'm going to be honest, and this is being an honest podcast here. There was people who deserved to lose their jobs.
Yes.
They should have lost their jobs sooner. And they did wrong by us, and they did not perform well. There were things that was happening that we found out about that was not right. And I'm glad for the ones who didn't deserve to be here that are gone. I'm glad they're gone.
Yeah.
And we're still dealing with.
Oh, we're going back and fixing homes.
We're going back and fixing
right.
stuff. Exactly. That were incorrect. But that wasn't the majority of the ones. There's just a few. And I'm glad they're gone. And I'll say that. And I'll defend that as a company owner.
Yeah.
Right. And, but it is sad to lose a job, but you pull yourself together and you go get another job. I've done it many times. You've done it many times.
Yeah.
That is the way the world works. And that is not being heartless. That's just living.
Hey.
That's just living.
I've fired family members.
So have I.
I've had to.
So have I.
That's what it's had to do, And people, some of the guys were, I've learned this, and I said, we're talking about things that you don't talk about.
Yeah,
you don't ever.
exactly.
But man, I had guys say, oh, we're family, I'm family, I'm family. Your family? Really? When that word is said, people say it too loosely. Too loosely. Like say when you say I love you.
Right. You say it too much, it loses the meaning.
Man.
Yeah.
You say it when it really comes down. I mean,
right.
It is it. And I've found that, no, we're not family.
Well, and two, let me make an example of this. When I played basketball, I did not get to play basketball in 6th grade or 7th grade. I didn't make the team. So I went out there. Here I come from Southern Heights Elementary School, thinking I'm hot stuff. I won the best free throw contest in 5th grade.
There, yeah.
I was a starter. I mean, I was the best there in this little school, in this little pond, right? So I go to middle school. I go to Westview Middle School. All these other girls who had had way more than me and just different, the way through my eyes, the way I seen it, and the way they looked and the way they performed and all this stuff. And I thought I was going to walk in there and I'd make the team. 6th grade, I didn't make the team. 7th grade, I didn't make the team. And what you had to do, you had to, a few days that you would try out, you did tryouts, and then you went to the gymnasium on that door, and if your name was not on there, you didn't make the team.
Yeah.
I was crushed.
The whole world knew it, too.
Everybody knew you weren't on there. So 6th grade, when you're getting on the bus in the afternoon, that means you didn't have ball practice. So they knew I didn't make the team. Everybody knew. So there is 6th grade. I had to look at that list, walk away crying. 7th, I had to walk away crying. 8th grade, busted my ass. I don't know if you can say that. Busted my ass, and I got on the 8th grade ball team at Westview. And I played high school Morristown West too. And
Nice.
But you have to work. You have to work, and you have to be better than the people that's around you. So there's a reason. If there's only 20 spots to fill here, it has to be the best of the best. That's what our customers deserve. That's what our company deserves. That's what everybody deserves, the best of the best. And you have to make that choice. It's hard, but life's hard.
Well, I told everybody here, I said, my dream was to have an elite team.
Yes.
And I said,
You've always said that.
Yeah, I said, I want you guys to be, I want it to be a Navy SEAL team. I want to be a commander of men, women, whatever we got to have here to build these homes that are, amazing. And there's no need. I've always said there's no need for supervisors. My God, if you don't want to do your job, go on home.
Well, and there's another thing that's very easy for people to do. And maybe even if they see this podcast, what we've been talking about the last 15, 20 minutes won't take well to them. But the easiest thing to do is sit there and complain and gripe about somebody else and pick them apart, what they've done wrong and stuff.
Yeah.
What I would pose to them is like, what are you doing for people? What are you doing? Are you helping them? Are you giving them money? If you don't have money, are you giving them your time?
Yeah.
Do you volunteer? Do you help watch other people's kids? Do you go over and mow other people's yards? Why don't you quit being such a busybody and quit gossiping and go do something for somebody? Why don't you try that out?
I know it.
Because that's exactly what I do. You keep yourself busy. You help other people. That should be our focus with anything, whether you get paid for it or not. Well, I don't get paid to mow their yard. You don't need to get paid. You need to go help them.
Right.
You know how many yards that we pass by and stuff, and we've done it. So we're not talking about something here that we've not actually done. We have seen people on the side of the road. We have took in homeless. We do help people. Sometimes it ain't the right thing to do. Sometimes it is the right thing to do. Sometimes it makes a difference. Sometimes it don't. But we need to keep ourselves busy. Idle chatter, gossiping, all that kind of stuff. Go find something to do.
It's bad for the soul.
It's bad for the soul. It's bad for community. It's bad for culture. It's bad for everybody.
Well, I was walking
just
out.
not good.
I was walking out here with Ace, and I went through, and we drove by.
He stayed here the whole time too.
And I was walking down in the forest, and I'd seen and in the grove.
Yeah.
And I seen there are people that have beautiful landscaping.
They do.
And they've got, oh my God, the ornaments, and it's so pretty. And then you go to a house, and it's like, it's plain.
Yeah.
And you can tell maybe they don't have the money to do it, or the time, or the health, or whatever that is.
And you know what they'll eventually do, because I know how they are.
Well,
they're going to jump in, and everybody will do that because we're.
Well, that's exactly what I thought to myself, because we've been so busy these last 4 or 5 months.
Oh my gosh.
And I finally took a walk out here, and I seen everywhere, and I looked, and I thought, you know what? I want to help these people that cannot finish their homes the way they want to be.
And with you saying that, not with just that, with the landscaping, but this has went on for years. Randy has offered to the community. We want our community to be different from any community. Number one, we're the largest tiny home community in America.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the cheapest, $200 a month.
And the most affordable, absolutely. $200 a month, okay? And it's getting nothing but better. But Randy instilled to everybody, it is put out there to all the residents, if you cannot afford to finish your skirting, if you can't afford to finish your painting, if you can't afford something that's finished, we will make payments. We will set up payments for you of what you can pay, because we want you to have a beautiful home. We want you to feel proud of it. Maybe you're in a bind, like can't pay for that right now, because everybody's on a budget. We're even on a budget.
Yep.
That's the whole point of the layoff and stuff. We're on a budget. We have a assembly line budget now. We have a model home budget for Amish and stuff. We are on a budget.
Is.
You have to stay within the budget. So no extra people hired, no extra things bought, things like that. So we're living on a budget, and that's the same way. But we wanted to offer that to the residents, to being a part of this community. We wanted to help people, even those who can't physically help. Some of them can't, they want to do the work, or maybe they can afford the work, but they can't physically do it.
Yeah.
So we've offered to do that as well. So
and
we've
people
helped
that can help out. I'd love to see some of these people here that have these gorgeous landscaping and rocks and stuff around their borders.
Yeah.
We'll give them to somebody who doesn't have that.
Absolutely.
And everybody has that.
And two, one of the other things too is everybody knows how much river rock is, or they should.
Oh, God.
So we've got this gorgeous river rock over there at the mountain.
Yeah.
Mounds of it. All the people, have you seen everybody that has took advantage of that? A great advantage that we wanted you to. We want you to take that river rock and decorate landscape all around your yards. It makes our community prettier.
Yeah.
Looks good for the company, looks good for the community, looks good for your house, for yourself. So we can all be proud. And that's the whole point of this community living. And one of the things that we had no idea was going to take off until it started being like, I will buy your home if I have somewhere to put it. Okay, where are we going to put it? All we can put it is around where we're at here. And we started this community, and it has made all the difference. So we are going to continue to make it look as beautiful as possible. It's one of the things that I know the podcast is supposed to be about me, but this is a big part of me, this company. It's not just my personal life and stuff like that, but it's this company means a lot to me. And what happens here means a lot to me, and it affects me. So good, bad.
It.
And absolutely, we created it from nothing. So we're very proud of it, and we want to continue to do other communities as long as people want them.
Yep.
You know, potentially we may have a new community in Emory Woods over in Dunlap, Tennessee. Potentially we may have a new small home community, the very first one that this company's branched off to a different type of building, something that you've always built. You know how to build, and you and Tom both have done that your whole lives. And potentially a new subdivision over there in Morristown, Tennessee. So this is something, as long as the people need it, affordable housing and everything. We know that the economy is down. We know that sales are down this year with every industry. We've talked to everyone, and but we're hopeful it'll bounce back. We're staying steady, and we're just keeping our budgets on. We're staying on budget, and we're going to ride the storm through, and we're going to make it. So that's our goal, is to just continue to move forward, so people will have the American dream again in their spirit, in their heart, of owning their own home.
Yeah.
So that's our drive.
Well, I've seen, people have seen, you hold the camera mostly for me on the YouTube channel, and I talk all the time, and that's why I wanted this podcast for you, so people could see a side of you, the part of you. There's so many layers of you and so many stories. It would take 10 podcasts to get all of it out. But to see this part of you, that I'm not the only one that believes and thinks, and I'm not the only one that has the push and the model that we've done. And it's you are right there. You're part of everything, and it's your frame of mind, and you stood behind it. So it's not just me. Now it's you too. So now it's both of our reputations that we're publicly stating who we are, what we have done.
And for anybody to think, I back Randy 100%, he backs me 100% always. It's just the way it is. No matter what our personal lives, anything with that, you're not going to divide us within this company at all. There was a woman that came here one time, I won't tell who it is, but she actually walked up to me and she said, what do you do here? Oh, well, it's interesting. What do I do here? Interesting. You know, there's a lot to it. It's been a lot of hard work. I'm glad it happened now. In the middle of it, I'd have been like, forget it. But I'm glad it happened, and I'm glad it's going the direction it's going. I think we are on track, and we just got to stick with each other and stay strong.
Yeah.
And keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, good. Well, I want to just tell everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast with Amanda and all that we've talked about, and you hear these stories, and I wanted the theme, I guess, of this podcast was about you, as how strong you are, and the women in your life that's created you a big portion. And like you said, you can't leave out old dad, because there's part of you that
oh my
you
just
got
gosh, there's
that
so
DNA
much of my dad.
going,
Absolutely.
But I wanted to give, I guess, homage to that. Is that what the word
homage,
is? Homage
yeah.
to that.
Mm-hmm.
And but
yeah, I want to thank my mom was Linda Kay.
Yeah.
Linda Kay, and my mama Mullins, Martha Jane, and then my mama Ruby. She was my mama. That was Ruby Fern.
Yeah.
And then my mama Hayes. It was Maggie Pearl. So these were some extraordinary women. In my life.
Yeah.
And now I have my daughter Lindsay Dare.
Mm-hmm.
So and then of course the two boys got Justin and Seth. And they have all benefited from what they taught me and how they raised me. Because
good kids.
Good kids. I got super lucky, and I was super fair with these kids growing up. I was very lenient, but they've never disrespected me.
Never.
You know how they are.
Yeah.
They don't disrespect me. They honor me. They take care of me. They have fun with me. We all have a good time, and I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate for the family that I have. Very fortunate for the work that I do here, and I'm got to say, my dogs. Listen, I am an animal lover.
Yeah.
I have got 6 dogs. Lindsay has 4 cats, and of course, when I get to come here, I get to love on Ace. He's everybody's dog. Randy thinks it's his dog. It's really not. He's everybody's dog. But love the dogs and stuff like that. So I'm very fortunate. So I thank God for everything I have.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, good. And
and
we could. Of course, you're going to be on here again, over and over and over, having you here, because there'll
be some things pop up.
So many other things. I would love to share the world with what you've done and what we're doing and all that.
Yeah.
So, but this is our podcast. We hope that people enjoy. And
does this have a name? Is it just Randy Jones Podcast?
I don't know.
You got to name it something.
I know. And I've thought about, we got to get our big, logo
like
here or something. And we tore these curtains out of the conference room, brought them in here.
Well, you know what? I thought they looked familiar. I was like, is that the ones that was over in the conference room?
And this whole studio has been built with, just so... I
forgot. See, I can't see, like I see myself sideways right here, but I can't. Yeah. So I've not been looking at the camera or anything.
That's
so
fine.
That'll be all right.
But all this is, this is like a $10 stand for this.
Well, and too, I want to say thank you to Carson. That's Randy's oldest son. Listen, he has got us set up.
He put all this together,
and he is working with 2 of the most. Not technical people on the planet.
Gosh.
Listen, he has to be pulling his hair out. But he is, I am trying to, there's 2 videos that's in wait of me to edit it on this new editing program.
Yeah.
You know me, and a lot of the people that know me, I don't want to learn nothing. I don't like new stuff. I don't want to learn new stuff. The only stuff that I've done in my life is I had to do it. It was like, I wanted to stay home, take care. I love to mow. I like to mow. I like to fool around in my yard, fool with my dogs, all that stuff. Let the kids. I like the kids sometimes. It's kids sometimes. Limited children, right? And but this is something that is not in my wheelhouse. But I have learned with doing the YouTube and everything, and our Facebook and everything. I've learned stuff, and now I'm learning something else. And Randy's trying to learn it with me as well. But thank you, Carson, for getting all this going, because without all this going on, we wouldn't even be here today.
We wouldn't have a podcast.
No, we would not. So,
all right.
Well, thanks for the invite. I was your second guest.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I didn't know. You never know how to just start one.
I know.
You're just like, okay, how do you just start a podcast? Mm-hmm. And
they're very popular now. A lot of people, I watch people's podcasts and stuff like that. So it's very popular.
Well, I think you had a massive story to tell.
Thank you.
And there's just so many that could, we could go on and on.
Oh my God, there's just so much, but there'll be more, and we want to bring, Randy wants to bring interesting people, and sometimes it's not going to be, it's going to be, normal people, normal stories and normal things that happen that we want you to be able to relate to and stuff. So, take this podcast with a grain of salt, right?
Yep.
Okay, because we all get mad, we all get upset, we
Yeah.
all have bad days, we all have good days, we all do positive stuff, we all, cuss, and then we all pray and everything. So
Yes.
just see us as real. We're real. It's like we're not trying to offend nobody. We want everybody to get along as much as you can. Sometimes you got to fight, and sometimes you just got to
That's
know
right.
when you got to know when to fight and know when not to fight, and just kind of let it ride.
So it's just,
know?
and that's why, I don't know where I heard that quote, and I sent it
What
to
is
you.
it?
It's like,
Oh, you did say something like that.
we're going to talk about things that you just don't talk about.
Yeah,
you
there
know?
you go. Well, you're kind of wanting to name that.
Yeah, and I thought about, that's a
Right.
long title, but I wanted it to be more real, and I think that's what we're known for, is being
We are.
real, transparent, showing it all. Even though people think we're not, I told in the video, I said, I'm not going to share every intimate thing about my life. It doesn't need to be.
No.
There's a dark side to all of us,
Oh,
I don't need to
absolutely.
share that dark side about me.
Right.
And I have before, like I went through a really horrible time as a kid.
Of course.
OCD
Yeah.
and how it all came about and what happened.
Yeah.
And I think it's helped people. And I don't care to share a story that I've succeeded in. And I
Sure.
thought, because I want it to, at the end, I want it to be, hey, now we can win, and it's hopeful,
Well, sometimes you feel compelled to share something
Yeah.
very personal because you know that it will help other people.
Yeah.
Now, there's some things about, idle stuff, just telling every little detail about your personal life,
Don't need
that's
to.
not necessary.
No,
It's
and
not
some
necessary.
of it, you know what? Just some things don't need to be ever
Some
said.
things you just keep
It's
it to
nobody's
yourself.
business.
We've got our own things that we want to keep to ourselves, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, thank you for the invite and stuff.
You're welcome. Sorry I didn't have any.
There's no snacks.
There's no snacks. There's
There's
no water
no
bottles.
snacks.
There's nothing.
I've ran out of water. This is awful. We're in a dark room like we're in a cave. But no, it was great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we got to figure out how to do them other videos.
Yes. Well, Carson.
I'm going home. Listen, my dad used to say this all the time. And he quit many a job, and he'd say, I know where the house is.
And with that,
I'm going home.
we're going.
All right. Thank you, guys.
See you guys. Bye.
That was fun. Listen. Okay. I can't believe that toilet paper sat there the whole time.